My name is Imran. I was born in 1978 in a small village in Pakistan, about 15 kilometers from Faisalabad. Our house was made of brick and mud, with a small courtyard where my mother kept chickens. In our family, Islam wasn't just Friday prayers. It was everything. My father, Allah Yaram, was the muezzin at our local mosque for 32 years. Even before I could properly tie my shoelaces, neighbors would say, "This boy will become a great alim one day." While my cousins spent afternoons flying kites and playing gilli-danda, I sat cross-legged on a torn prayer mat in Maulvi Sahib's madrasa, rocking back and forth as I memorized verses. Nobody forces me to it, I naturally love it. My throat would get dry from reciting, but when Maulvi Sahib nodded with approval, I felt proud. By age 13, I could recite the entire Quran from memory. The villagers called me Hafiz Imran, and I walked a little taller and waved my hands when they said it. At 18, I became the Imam of Masjid Norihuda on Jang Road. It was a small mosque with cracked walls and a leaky roof, but it was mine. Every morning at 4:30, I would walk there in the dark, my bare feet cold against the wet grass. The mosque had this echo. When I called the adhan, I could hear doors opening, the shuffle of feet, the sound of water as men performed wudu at the hand pump outside. People started coming to me for everything. Bashir, who ran the small general store, brought his account books for me to bless. Nazreen Bibi from the next street would cry at my feet, begging me to pray for her sick buffalo. The farmers came before planting season, wanting du'as for rain. I would place my hands on their heads, recite whatever came to mind, and they would leave satisfied. I believed Allah had chosen me to be His voice in this small corner of the world. At home, I married Aisha in 1999. She was 19, with gentle eyes and a quiet laugh. Her family lived 3 villages away. On our wedding day, she looked nervous during the nikah ceremony, fidgeting with her dupatta. But she adjusted to our house well. She would have my tea ready before Maghrib prayers, warm rotis wrapped in cloth. Our son Hamza was born in 2003, a chubby baby who would grab my beard when I held him. But I was always busy. After far prayers, I would teach children at the madrasa until noon. Afternoons were for visiting sick people, settling disputes, or studying hadith books. Evenings meant leading prayers again. Aisha would wait with dinner, sometimes until 10 p.m., but I always had somewhere else to be. When Hamza learned to walk, he would run to the door when he heard my footsteps, but I would just pat his head quickly before rushing off for Isha prayers. One evening, Aisha was sitting on the floor, folding clean clothes. Hamza, maybe 4 years old, was playing with bottle caps nearby. She looked up at me and said quietly, "Imran, yesterday Hamza asked me why his Abba doesn't eat with us anymore." Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. I felt something twist in my stomach, but I said, "Everything I do is for Allah's pleasure. This is how I provide for you both." She nodded and went back to folding clothes, but I saw her wipe her eyes with her dupatta. Then 2011 came, and everything fell apart. It started with a small cough. Aisha said it was from the wood smoke when she cooked. Our charcoal stove wasn't very good. But the cough didn't go away. After a few weeks, she started losing weight. Her face looked hollow. At night, I could hear her coughing in the other room, trying to muffle the sound so she wouldn't wake Hamza. I took her to Dr. Malik's clinic on Samundri Road. He gave her cough syrup and antibiotics. When those didn't work, we went to the bigger hospital in Faisalabad. The doctors there did tests, x-rays, blood work. The results took 3 days. When they came back, the doctor, a serious man with glasses, called me aside. "Your wife is very sick," he said. "This is advanced. We can try treatment." I spent everything. My savings, money I borrowed from my brother, even the gold bangles that belonged to my mother. The chemotherapy made Aisha so weak she could barely lift her head. Her beautiful hair fell out in clumps. Hamza didn't understand why his mother couldn't play with him anymore. I prayed like never before. I woke up at 3 a.m. for tahajjud prayers, crying and begging Allah. I recited Surah Yasin over her every night, my voice shaking. I fasted 3 days a week. I gave away everything I could as sadaqah, my watch, my good prayer cap, even Hamza's bicycle. I thought if I just prayed harder, sacrificed more, Allah would heal her. One January morning in 2012, Aisha was lying on our bed, breathing in short gasps. Her lips had turned blue. Hamza was at school. I had sent him to his aunt's house because I didn't want him to see. I held Aisha's hand. It was so thin, so cold. I recited Ayat al-Kursi, but she couldn't respond anymore. At 2:17 p.m., I remember looking at the clock. She stopped breathing. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. The janazah was at my own mosque. The whole village came. I had to lead the prayer for my own wife's funeral. My voice cracked during the takbir. As we buried her in the small graveyard behind the mosque, I felt something breaking inside me. That night, alone in the mosque, I lay on the cold floor and asked Allah why. Why had He not answered? What more could I have given? But the worst was yet to come. 2 months later, Hamza got sick. It started with a fever that wouldn't break. Then he stopped eating. His small body grew weak so quickly it scared me. At Allied Hospital, they ran the same tests they had run on Aisha. When the doctor called me into his office, I already knew. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's the same condition." I felt the world spin. Not Hamza. Not my little boy who still asked when his mother was coming home. This time, I didn't just pray, I begged. I prostrated in the hospital corridor, not caring who saw me. I recited every dua I knew. I promised Allah I would dedicate my whole life to His service, become a better Muslim, help more people. But Hamza kept getting weaker. One night, I was sitting beside his hospital bed. He looked so small among all those machines and tubes. His breathing was shallow. I had been awake for 2 days straight, praying, reading Quran, calling every religious person I knew to pray for him. Nothing was working. I must have dozed off holding his hand. Then I had the strangest dream. I was standing in a field of light, not harsh sunlight, but something warm and peaceful. A figure approached me. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I felt such love, such peace. He said simply, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. Your tears are not unheard. Your son will live." I woke with tears on my face. It was 3 a.m. At that exact moment, a nurse entered, Sister Mary, a Christian woman who had been kind to us. She looked at me and said gently, "Sir, I have been praying for your son. I have this feeling unshaken that he will recover, in Jesus' name." Those words hit me like a physical blow. They were almost exactly what I had heard in the dream. I stared at her, confused and shaken. The next morning, something miraculous happened. Hamza's fever broke. His appetite returned. The doctors ran new tests, and they couldn't explain the improvement. "This is medically unusual," they said. But I knew it wasn't medicine. Over the following weeks, as Hamza recovered completely, I couldn't stop thinking about that dream, about Sister Mary's words. I started asking her questions about Jesus, about Christianity. She gave me a small book, the Gospel of John in Urdu. I read it secretly, my heart pounding as if I was doing something forbidden. When I read Jesus' words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," I wept. For the first time in months, I felt peace. In March 2013, in a small Christian home in Faisalabad, I was secretly baptized. As the water covered me, I felt as if years of weight were being washed away. The fear, the anger, the desperate striving to earn God's love, all of it disappeared. I have to quietly relocate far from my people because I know the consequences of my new reality. Yes, I lost my position. The villagers called me a traitor. I was informed of life threats going underground. But I gained something far greater. I found rest for my soul, and I found a God who doesn't require me to earn His love. He simply gives it. And I'm ready for any outcome any day. Hamza and I now wake up each morning and read the Bible together. We pray simple prayers, not long formal recitations. And for the first time in my life, I know without doubt that God hears us. Looking back, I realized something important. It wasn't someone preaching to me that opened my heart to Jesus. It was Sister Mary's kindness during our darkest hours. She didn't argue with me about religion or try to convince me Islam was wrong. She simply showed me Jesus through her actions, staying late to check on Hamza when she didn't have to, bringing us tea when we had no money, praying for us when she thought no one was listening. I had known many Christians before in Faisalabad, shopkeepers, doctors, teachers. But most kept to themselves. I never saw anything different about their lives that made me curious about their faith. If I had, maybe I would have found Jesus sooner. Maybe Aisha would have found him too. Now I want to say something to my Christian brothers and sisters, especially those living here in Pakistan and in other places where Christians are few. You may think no one is watching you, but they are. Your Muslim neighbors, your Hindu colleagues, your coworkers of other faiths, they see how you treat your family, how you handle difficulties, how you respond when someone hurts you. They notice if you have peace in the middle of problems, if you show kindness to people who can't help you in return. I was an Imam for 15 years. I thought I knew what godliness looked like. Long prayers, religious knowledge, strict following of rules. But when I saw Jesus living through Sister Mary, I realized I had never seen real godliness before. Her simple love, her genuine concern for others, her quiet strength. This was what drew me to Christ, not her words. The Quran says that Christians and Jews are people of the book. Most Muslims respect Jesus as a great prophet. But they need to see him as more than that. They need to see him as the living God who changes lives. They will see this not through your arguments, but through your character. Not through your words, but through your love in action. Be the Jesus your neighbors need to see. Show them that following Christ doesn't just change what you believe, it changes how you live. Let them see the peace of Jesus when you face troubles. Let them see the love of Jesus in how you treat others, especially those who are different from you. Let them see the hope of Jesus even when life is difficult. God is moving in Pakistan, in the Middle East, in places where His name has been forbidden. But He chooses to work through ordinary Christians who simply live like Jesus every day. You may be the only Bible your neighbors ever read. You may be the only Jesus they ever see. Don't underestimate the power of a life lived for Christ. Someone is watching, and God may use your faithful witness to call them to salvation, just as He used Sister Mary to call me.